And really, wasn't that the whole point? Tom Bradley was tired. Not the kind of tired you fix with a good night's sleep, but the bone-deep exhaustion that comes from 25 years of chasing criminals through city streets. At 52, he'd seen more than his fair share of the worst humanity had to offer. So when the opportunity came to move to a quiet suburban neighborhood, he jumped at it. The house in Oakwood Estates wasn't fancy, just a regular two-story with a decent yard and a garage. But it was perfect for him and his 16-year-old daughter, Lily. After the divorce 3 years ago, it had been just the two of them, and they'd made it work. This new place meant a fresh start, better schools for Lily, and maybe, just maybe, some peace and quiet. Moving day was hot. The kind of August heat that makes your shirt stick to your back. Tom had taken the week off work, telling his team at the precinct he'd be unreachable unless the city was literally on fire. He wore his oldest jeans and a faded college t-shirt, already stained with sweat by noon. Lily had claimed the bedroom with the better closet and was busy arranging her collection of sneakers while Tom hauled boxes up the stairs. The moving truck sat in the driveway, half empty. Their furniture was a mix of old and new, nothing fancy. Tom had never been one for expensive things. Give him a comfortable chair and a working TV and he was happy. Lily kept teasing him about his dad taste in furniture, but she'd inherited his practical nature, so she didn't complain too much. Tom was carrying a box labeled kitchen stuff when he noticed a woman marching across the lawn toward him. She moved with purpose, clipboard in hand, her face set in what could only be described as professional disapproval. She wore a crisp white blouse despite the heat, and her hair was pulled back so tight it probably gave her a headache. "Excuse me," she called out before she'd even reached the driveway. "Are you the new resident of 247 Maple Drive?" Tom set down the box and wiped his hands on his jeans. "That's me. Just moved in today. I'm Tom." The woman didn't smile. She didn't even offer her hand. Instead, she positioned her clipboard between them like a shield. "I'm Carol Hutchinson, president of the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association. We need to discuss several violations." Tom blinked. He'd been in the house for exactly 4 hours. "Violations?" Carol flipped through papers on her clipboard with practiced efficiency. "Your moving truck is parked on the street. According to HOA Regulations, Section 4.2, moving vehicles must be removed from neighborhood streets by 6 p.m. It's currently 5:45. That gives you 15 minutes. The truck company said we have until 8, Tom said, trying to keep his voice friendly. "That's what we paid for." "The HOA rules supersede your rental agreement," Carol replied, her tone suggesting this was obvious. "Furthermore, I've noticed your lawn is approximately 1¼ inches tall. The regulation height is 1 inch exactly. You'll need to mow it within 48 hours. Tom looked at the lawn. It looked like every other lawn on the street. Maybe a little messy from the previous owners, but nothing crazy. "I'll take care of it this weekend." 48 hours, Carol repeated, making a note. "I'm also seeing that your mailbox needs repainting. We have an approved color palette. Only colonial blue, heritage cream, or classic gray are permitted. Your mailbox is currently black, which is not on the approved list." Inside the house, Tom could hear Lily calling for him, asking where he'd put the box with her bathroom stuff. He wanted to get back to helping her settle in. Instead, he was standing in his own driveway getting lectured about mailbox colors. "Look, Mrs. Hutchinson." "Ms. Hutchinson," she corrected sharply. "Ms. Hutchinson, I just moved in today. I'm happy to follow reasonable rules, but I need some time to get settled first. I promise I'll handle everything within the week." Carol's eyes narrowed. She pulled a thick 3-ring binder from under her clipboard and thrust it toward him. The thing must have weighed 5 pounds. "These are the complete HOA regulations. I suggest you read them carefully. All of them. We have 97 pages of guidelines and I enforce every single one." Tom took the binder, feeling its weight in his hands. 97 pages. For a neighborhood. "I take my position very seriously," Carol continued, her voice dropping to what she probably thought was an intimidating level. "Some people move in here thinking rules don't apply to them, thinking they can do whatever they want. Those people don't last long in Oakwood Estates." There was something in her tone that made Tom's cop instincts kick in. He'd dealt with bullies his entire career. They came in all shapes and sizes, wore all kinds of uniforms, both official and unofficial. And he recognized the look in Carol's eyes. This was someone who'd found a tiny bit of power and grabbed onto it with both hands. "I should also mention," Carol added, her lips curling into what might have been a smile but looked more like a threat, I have excellent relationships with local law enforcement. My brother-in-law is a sergeant, so if there are any issues with compliance, I have no hesitation about involving the authorities. Tom almost laughed. He stopped himself, though. Instead, he just nodded slowly. Noted. After 25 years as a cop, the last 8 as detective chief overseeing the entire detective division, Tom had learned when to keep his mouth shut. Some situations resolved themselves better when you didn't show all your cards right away. Besides, he was on vacation. He didn't want to be Detective Chief Tom Bradley right now. He just wanted to be Tom, regular guy, regular dad, trying to build a normal life for his kid. I'll be monitoring your property closely, Carol said, turning to leave. Welcome to the neighborhood. She walked away, her shoes clicking on the pavement, leaving Tom standing there with a 5-pound binder and a growing headache. Dad? Lily appeared in the doorway, her hair tied up in a messy bun. Who was that? HOA president, Tom said, hefting the binder. Apparently our mailbox is the wrong color. Lily rolled her eyes. Seriously? We've been here for like 5 minutes. Yeah. Tom looked down the street. It was a nice neighborhood, clean, quiet. The houses were well maintained, the lawns neat. Kids were riding bikes a few houses down. An older couple was walking their dog. This was exactly the kind of place he'd wanted for Lily. Safe. Normal. But as he watched Carol disappear into her house 3 doors down, he felt a familiar tightness in his gut. The same one he got when a case was about to go sideways. Come on, he said to Lily, shaking off the feeling. Let's finish unpacking. I'll deal with all this tomorrow. That night, after they'd ordered pizza and assembled Lily's bed frame, Tom flipped through the HOA binder. 97 pages wasn't an exaggeration. There were rules about everything. Garbage can placement, garden gnome restrictions, approved dog breeds, permitted Christmas decoration timeframes, the acceptable angle for parking cars in driveways. It was insane. But Tom had dealt with worse. He'd negotiated with hostage takers. He'd interviewed serial killers. He'd survived budget meetings with the city council. He could handle an overzealous HOA president, or so he thought. What Tom didn't know as he finally fell asleep that first night in his new house was that Carol Hutchinson wasn't just overzealous. She was on a mission to control everything and everyone in Oakwood Estates, and she'd already decided that Tom was going to be a problem. The war had begun. Tom just didn't know it yet. Tom thought the mailbox thing would be the end of it. He painted it heritage cream on Saturday, mowed the lawn to exactly 1 inch, and moved on with his life. He had more important things to worry about, like helping Lily adjust to her new school and catching up on case files from work. But Carol wasn't done. Not even close. On Monday morning, Tom found a yellow notice taped to his front door. Violation number 6.7. Outdoor lights remained on past 11 p.m. Fine, $50. He stared at it, coffee mug in hand, trying to remember if he'd even turned on the porch light. He hadn't. The light had a sensor and came on automatically when it got dark. Tuesday brought another notice. His car was parked 6 inches over the designated parking space line. The line was painted on his own driveway. He measured it. His car was perfectly centered. The notice included a grainy photo that looked like it had been taken from an odd angle to make it look worse than it was. Wednesday, another notice. This time about his garage door being open for more than 2 hours during daytime. The rule book apparently said garage doors could only remain open for active use. Tom had been organizing boxes. The door was open because he was carrying stuff in and out. By Friday, Tom had 7 notices total. Each one threatened fines, legal action, and possible liens on his property. Each one had Carol's tight, precise handwriting at the bottom. First warning or second notice or final reminder. This is crazy, Lily said, reading through the stack of yellow papers on the kitchen counter. She's like obsessed with us. Tom rubbed his temples. She's just doing her job. Poorly. Dad, she came by yesterday while you were at work and measured our grass with a ruler. Mrs. Patterson next door told me. She said Carol does this to everyone. That got Tom's attention. Mrs. Patterson? The lady with the gray hair? 3 houses down? She brought us cookies last week, remember? Tom did remember. The older woman had seemed nice, apologizing for not coming by sooner. Now he understood why people in the neighborhood were friendly, but also kind of quiet. They were all dealing with the same thing. That evening, while Tom was grilling burgers in the backyard, his neighbor from the other side, a guy named Kevin, leaned over the fence. "Hey, man. Sorry about Carol," Kevin said, keeping his voice low. "You've dealt with her too?" Kevin laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Dude, everyone has. She gave me 16 violations in my first month. 16. One was because my kid's bike was parked on the lawn instead of in the garage. Another was because I had the wrong kind of mailbox flag. I didn't even know mailbox flags had types. How long have you lived here?" 2 years. It's gotten worse lately. Her husband left her about 6 months ago, and since then she's been on a rampage. The Johnsons 2 streets over moved out because of her. She made their life so miserable they just gave up and left. Tom flipped a burger, processing this. Nobody's complained to the HOA board? She is the board, basically. Or at least she controls it. The other members are too scared to vote against her. Trust me, people have tried. Kevin glanced toward Carol's house. Just keep your head down, follow the stupid rules, and eventually she'll move on to someone else. But Carol didn't move on. Over the next 2 weeks, the notices kept coming. Tom's welcome mat was the wrong size. His house numbers needed to be more visible. His recycling bin was placed 3 inches too far to the left. He was starting to document everything, taking photos, keeping records. Old habits from decades of police work. Lily had joined the school basketball team, and Tom bought her a portable hoop for the driveway so she could practice at home. She was out there every afternoon, shooting baskets, finally starting to feel at home in the new neighborhood. Some of the kids from down the street started coming over to play. The next morning, there was a notice. Basketball hoops required HOA approval. This hoop was not on the approved equipment list. It needed to be removed within 24 hours. Tom took a deep breath. Then another. He called the HOA office and left a message requesting an appeal. No response. That weekend, Lily had a school project for her art class. She'd always been creative, more like her mother than Tom. The assignment was to create something beautiful out of recycled materials. She spent all Saturday building flower planters out of old wooden crates, painting them in bright colors, filling them with soil and flowers from the garden center. "Dad, look." She arranged them on the front porch, stepping back to admire her work. "What do you think?" Tom looked at the planters. They were actually really good. Colorful, cheerful, the kind of thing that made a house look like a home. "They're perfect, kiddo." "Really nice work," Lily beamed. She took photos for her project presentation, then settled in to do homework while Tom made dinner. At 7:30, there was a sharp knock at the door. Tom knew who it was before he opened it. Carol stood on the porch, her face red, a violation notice already filled out in her hand. "Those planters need to be removed immediately." "They're for my daughter's school project," Tom said calmly. "She worked really hard on them." "I don't care if she worked all year. They're not regulation planters. Section 12.4 clearly states that all outdoor decorative items must be from the approved vendor list." Lily appeared behind Tom. "But I made them myself. For school." Carol didn't even look at her. "Remove them by tonight or I'll have them removed myself." Something in Tom's chest tightened. He'd stayed calm through all of this. The stupid notices, the ridiculous rules, the constant harassment. But threatening his kid's school project was different. "No," Tom said quietly. Carol's eyes widened. "Excuse me?" "I said no. My daughter worked hard on those planters. They're staying up at least until she finishes her project presentation. Then we can discuss it. You don't get to decide." "Yes, I do. It's my porch." Carol's face went from red to purple. "You'll regret this. I promise you'll regret this." She spun around and marched back to her car, nearly tripping over her own feet. Tom closed the door. His hands were shaking slightly. Not from fear, but from anger. 25 years of staying professional, of being the calm one, of following procedures. And here he was in his own home being bullied by someone with a clipboard and too much time on her hands. "Dad?" Lily's voice was small. "We can take them down." "It's okay." "No." Tom put his hand on her shoulder. "It's not okay. You did good work. I'm proud of you." The planters stay. That night, Tom couldn't sleep. He got up around 2 in the morning, thinking about getting some water. As he passed the front window, he saw movement outside. Someone was on his porch. His cop instincts kicked in immediately. He moved to the window carefully, staying in the shadows. In the dim light from the street lamp, he could see a figure kneeling by the planters. It was Carol. Tom watched, hardly believing what he was seeing. She grabbed one of the planters and smashed it against the porch railing. Dirt and flowers scattered everywhere. Then another. Then another. She worked quickly, methodically destroying each one. When she was done, she stood up, brushed off her hands, and walked back to her car like nothing had happened. Tom stood frozen at the window. He'd seen a lot in his career, but watching a grown woman sneak around at 2 a.m. to destroy a teenager's school project was a new low. In the morning, Lily cried when she saw the damage. The beautiful planters she'd spent all day creating were nothing but broken wood and scattered flowers. Tom held her while she sobbed, feeling his own anger building to a dangerous level. "It's okay, baby. We'll fix this," but it wasn't okay, and Tom was done playing nice. Kevin came over when he saw them cleaning up. "I got it on my security camera," he said quietly. "Everything. Want me to send you the footage?" Tom nodded. Mrs. Patterson came over too, then the couple from across the street. One by one, neighbors emerged with their own stories, their own footage, their own experiences with Carol's increasingly unhinged behavior. "We've been too scared to do anything," Mrs. Patterson admitted, "but this has gone too far." Tom looked at the broken planters, at his daughter's tear-stained face, at the neighbors who'd been suffering in silence. He'd tried being just a regular guy. Just Tom, the new neighbor, but maybe it was time to remind certain people that actions had consequences. And Detective Chief Tom Bradley knew all about consequences. Tom spent Sunday morning helping Lily rebuild what could be saved from her planters. Most of it was ruined, but they managed to salvage enough for her to document the project and explain what happened. Her art teacher was understanding when Lily showed her the before and after photos, but Tom wasn't going to let this slide. Not this time. Monday morning, he made a call to the non-emergency police line. He could have handled this a dozen different ways, pulled strings, made it disappear, but that wasn't how Tom worked. He'd spent his entire career believing in doing things the right way, by the book. If he started cutting corners now, what did that say? "I'd like to report vandalism at my property," he told the dispatcher. An hour later, a patrol car pulled up. Tom watched from the window as a young officer stepped out, adjusting his belt, looking around the quiet neighborhood like he couldn't quite figure out why he was there. Tom opened the door before the officer could knock. "Thanks for coming." The officer looked at him, then did a double take. His eyes went wide. "Chief Bradley?" Tom put a finger to his lips and stepped outside, closing the door behind him. "Keep it professional, please." "Just Tom Bradley, resident." "You are?" "Officer Rodriguez, sir. I mean, Mr. Bradley." Rodriguez looked confused but nodded. "You called about vandalism?" Tom showed him the remains of the planters, the security footage Kevin had sent over, and explained the situation. Rodriguez took notes, watched the video twice, and whistled low. "That's pretty clear footage. You want to press charges?" "I want it documented," Tom said. "Official report, everything by the book." Rodriguez understood. He'd been on the force 4 years, and everyone knew Chief Bradley's reputation. "Fair but thorough. By the book, always. I'll file the report today. Case number will be in the system by tonight." After Rodriguez left, Tom felt better. Not satisfied, but better. He'd done it the right way. Now there was an official record of what Carol had done. He should have known she'd find out. Small towns and suburbs were like that. Everyone knew someone who knew someone. By Tuesday afternoon, Carol had somehow discovered that a police report had been filed. Tom never found out exactly how. Maybe she really did have connections at the police department. Maybe she just knew someone at the station. What mattered was that she knew. And she was furious. Tom was in his garage that evening, finally getting around to organizing his tools when his phone rang. It was Lily calling from inside the house. "Dad, that lady is across the street taking pictures of our house." Tom looked out to see Carol standing on the sidewalk with her phone, photographing his house from every angle. When she saw him watching, she didn't look away. She stared right at him, her expression cold and hard. Then she got in her car and drove off. "That was weird," Lily said when Tom came back inside. "Yeah." Tom had a bad feeling, that look on Carol's face. He'd seen it before on people who were about to do something stupid. The next morning, Wednesday, Tom was home alone. Lily was at school, and he'd taken the day off to catch up on paperwork. He was sitting at the kitchen table, laptop open, when he heard sirens. They were getting closer. Tom looked out the window and felt his stomach drop. Two patrol cars were pulling onto his street, lights flashing. For a second, he thought maybe there was an emergency somewhere nearby. Then they turned into his driveway. "You've got to be kidding me," Tom muttered. He walked outside, hands visible, movements calm and deliberate. Years of training kicked in automatically. He knew how this looked from the officer's perspective. He knew exactly how to behave. Two officers got out. Tom recognized one of them immediately. Officer Chen had worked a case with his department last year. Good cop, detail-oriented. Chen's partner was younger, someone Tom didn't know. Chen saw Tom and froze mid-step. His hand, which had been moving toward his radio, stopped. His face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, recognition, disbelief. Chief Bradley? Across the street, Carol was standing on her lawn with her phone out, recording everything. She had a satisfied smile on her face. "Hey, Chen," Tom said calmly. "What's going on?" Chen looked at his partner, then back at Tom, clearly trying to figure out how to handle this. We got a 911 call. Woman reported a suspicious person in the neighborhood. Possible threat. She said you'd been casing houses," the younger officer added, checking his notes. "Acting threatening. She claimed she saw weapons in your garage and felt unsafe." Tom closed his eyes for a second. Of course she'd done this. "I'm guessing that call came from Carol Hutchinson. Lives 3 doors down?" Chen nodded slowly. "You know her?" "Unfortunately." Tom gestured to the house. "I moved in 3 weeks ago. She's the HOA president. Been harassing me and my daughter since day one. It escalated after she vandalized my property and I filed a police report. This is retaliation." The younger officer looked skeptical. "Sir, we still need to—" "Chief?" Chen interrupted quietly. "This is Detective Chief Tom Bradley. He runs the entire detective division." The younger officer's face went pale. "Oh." Carol's voice cut across the street. "Why are you just standing there? Arrest him. I filed a complaint. He's dangerous." Tom noticed neighbors starting to come outside. Kevin appeared on his porch. Mrs. Patterson stood in her doorway. The couple from across the street watched from their window. Chen turned toward Carol. "Ma'am, could you come over here, please?" Carol marched over, her phone still recording. "It's about time. I've been telling you people for weeks that this man is trouble. I have documented evidence of his violations. He's been threatening me, intimidating me. My brother-in-law is a sergeant at the precinct, and he's going to hear about how long you took to respond." "Ma'am," Chen said patiently, "do you know who this is? Some criminal who thinks he can do whatever he wants?" Carol snapped. "I know his type. Thinks rules don't apply to him." Tom stayed quiet. He wanted to see how this played out. Chen looked tired. "Ma'am, this is Detective Chief Tom Bradley. He's one of the highest-ranking officers in the city police department." The change in Carol's face was something Tom would remember for a long time. The confidence drained away like water. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. The phone in her hand slowly lowered. That's not possible." Tom pulled out his badge and ID, showing them to Chen even though they both knew it wasn't necessary. Everything by the book. "Detective Chief Tom Bradley, badge number 1847. I've been with the department for 25 years. But you—" Carol looked at his casual clothes, his regular house, his normal car. "You said you were just—" "I said I was new to the neighborhood," Tom corrected gently. "You made assumptions." The younger officer was writing in his notebook. "Ma'am, filing a false police report is a serious offense, especially a false 911 call." "I didn't know," Carol stammered. "I thought there was a misunderstanding." "You called 911 and claimed I was dangerous," Tom said, his voice still calm but firm. "You said I was casing houses. You claimed you saw weapons, all lies. That's not a misunderstanding, that's a crime." Chen nodded. "And based on what you said about property damage and prior harassment, this looks like retaliation." Carol's face had gone from red to white. "I want to talk to my lawyer," That's probably a good idea, Chen agreed. Kevin walked over, phone in hand. Officers, I have security footage of her vandalizing his property. So do 3 other neighbors. We've all got recordings of her harassing people on this street. We've been documenting everything for months. Mrs. Patterson joined in. She's made life miserable for everyone here. We've been too afraid to do anything because she always said she had connections with the police. But enough is enough. More neighbors came forward. The couple from across the street, a man from 2 houses down. Everyone had a story. Everyone had evidence. Carol looked around at the circle of neighbors, at the police officers, at Tom standing there with his arms crossed. For the first time since Tom had met her, she looked small, powerless. This is all a mistake, she said weakly. No, Tom said quietly. This is all a consequence. Chen had to explain to Carol that filing a false emergency report was a criminal offense. They had to inform her about potential charges. Through it all, Carol tried to backtrack, to explain, to play the victim. But Tom knew how this worked. He'd been a cop long enough to recognize when someone had pushed things too far. There was a line, and Carol had sprinted across it without looking back. As the officers finished up their report, Tom stood on his porch watching the neighborhood he'd wanted so badly for Lily. The quiet streets, the neat houses, the normal life. Turned out normal was more complicated than he thought. But at least now, finally, the truth was out. Tom didn't press criminal charges. He could have. Chen and the other officers made it clear that the false police report was enough to charge Carol. Add in the vandalism caught on camera, and she was looking at real consequences. But Tom had been doing this job long enough to know that sometimes the legal system wasn't the answer. Sometimes people needed to face consequences in other ways, ways that actually changed things instead of just punishing them. I'm not interested in sending her to jail, Tom told Chen before they left. But I am interested in making sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. Chen nodded, understanding. The report's still on file if you change your mind. What Tom did instead was sit down that evening and write a detailed formal complaint to the HOA management company. He'd done his homework over the past few weeks, reading through that ridiculous 97-page rulebook, looking up the actual corporate structure of Oakwood Estates. The HOA wasn't just Carol. There was a board of 5 members and above them a property management company that handled the legal and financial aspects. Tom wrote to both. His complaint was thorough. Dates, times, violations Carol had invented. Photos of the damage to Lily's planters. Links to the security footage Kevin and the other neighbors had provided. Copies of the excessive violation notices. The police report number for the false 911 call. He kept his tone professional. Just the facts. Let them speak for themselves. Kevin provided his own statement. So did Mrs. Patterson. The couple across the street. The guy 2 doors down. One by one, neighbors who'd been silent for months or years started speaking up. It was like a dam had broken. Mrs. Patterson's statement was heartbreaking. Carol had given her dead husband's memorial garden violation notices because the flowers weren't on the approved plant list. She'd been too grief-stricken to fight back. The couple across the street had been fined repeatedly for their daughter's wheelchair ramp, which Carol claimed was not aesthetically consistent with neighborhood standards. Kevin had documented 17 months of harassment. 17 months. The management company received all of it on Thursday. By Friday afternoon, Tom got a call from a lawyer named Mr. Peterson, who represented the property management firm. Mr. Bradley, I've reviewed your complaint and the supporting documentation. Peterson's voice was carefully neutral. This is deeply concerning. We're convening an emergency board meeting this Sunday. Would you be available to attend? I'll be there, Tom said. Sunday afternoon, Tom walked into the community center at the edge of Oakwood Estates. The meeting room was packed. Apparently word had spread, and half the neighborhood had shown up. Carol sat at the front table with the 4 other board members. She looked smaller than Tom remembered. Her usual crisp appearance had been replaced with dark circles under her eyes and wrinkled clothes. She didn't look at anyone. Mr. Peterson ran the meeting. He was all business. laying out the complaints, reading through statements, showing the security footage on a projector screen. When the video of Carol smashing Lily's planters played, there were audible gasps from the audience. The other board members looked shocked, genuinely shocked. Tom realized they probably hadn't known the extent of what Carol had been doing. "I'd like to add something," said one of the board members, an older man named Richard. "I've been reviewing our financial records. Carol handles the HOA funds. I found some discrepancies." The room went silent. Richard pulled out a folder. "Over the past 6 months, there have been numerous charges to the HOA account that don't match our approved budget. Landscaping services we never authorized, equipment purchases that never materialized. When I asked Carol about them yesterday, she became defensive and refused to provide receipts." Mr. Peterson's face hardened. "How much are we talking about?" "Approximately $18,000. The gasps were louder this time. Carol's head snapped up. "Those were legitimate expenses. You don't understand how much work it takes to run this neighborhood." "Then you'll have receipts," Richard said calmly. "Invoices. Paper trail. That's basic accounting." Carol's mouth opened and closed. She had nothing. Tom watched, saying nothing. He hadn't known about the financial issues. That was all Carol. She'd done this to herself. Mr. Peterson didn't waste time. Given the severity of these allegations, abuse of authority, property damage, filing false police reports, and potential financial misappropriation, "I'm recommending immediate removal from the board pending a full audit." "You can't do this," Carol said, but her voice was weak. "I've been president for 5 years. I built this neighborhood's standards." "You terrorized people," Mrs. Patterson said from the audience, her voice shaking but firm. "You made us afraid in our own homes." "My daughter cried for 3 days because you destroyed her school project," Tom added quietly. "That's not building standards. That's bullying." The vote was unanimous. All 4 board members voted to remove Carol immediately. They also voted to ban her from holding any HOA position in the future and to pursue legal action for the missing funds. Carol gathered her things in silence. As she walked past Tom toward the exit, she stopped. For a moment, he thought she might say something. Apologize, maybe. Or threaten him one last time. Instead, she just looked at him with empty eyes and walked out. The meeting continued for another hour. The board apologized to the neighborhood. Mr. Peterson announced a full review of all HOA rules and a new complaint process. Several board members stepped down, ashamed they hadn't caught Carol's behavior sooner. Kevin was elected as the new president. He immediately proposed cutting the rule book down to basics. "We're neighbors, not prison guards," he said. Everyone applauded. Over the next 2 weeks, Tom watched Carol's house. The for sale sign went up on Tuesday. Carol herself was rarely seen. Her car would leave early in the morning and come back late at night, like she was avoiding everyone. Tom actually felt a little bad for her. Not enough to regret what happened, but enough to recognize that she was a person who'd made terrible choices and was now facing the consequences. On a Friday evening, 2 weeks after the board meeting, there was a knock on Tom's door. He opened it to find Carol standing there. No clipboard, no violation notices, just Carol looking tired and defeated. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" she asked. Tom considered saying no. He had every right to. But something in her expression made him step out onto the porch instead, leaving the door open behind him. "I'm leaving next week," Carol said, "moving to my sister's place upstate. I just wanted to—" She paused, struggling with the words. "I wanted to apologize. Really apologize." Tom waited. "My husband left me 8 months ago, after 23 years, and I lost myself. I had no control over my life falling apart, so I tried to control everything else. The neighborhood, the rules, other people. It became an obsession." She looked at her hands. "I knew I was being terrible. I knew it, but I couldn't stop. It was the only thing that made me feel like I mattered." "You hurt people," Tom said simply. "Good people. My daughter, Mrs. Patterson. Families who just wanted to live their lives." "I know." Carol's voice cracked. "I know, and I'm sorry, truly. What I did was unforgivable. The police report, the vandalism, all of it. You had every right to press charges. You showed me more mercy than I deserved." Tom leaned against the porch railing. "I've been a cop for 25 years. I've learned that sometimes people do terrible things when they're in pain. That doesn't excuse it. But it explains it. I'm getting help, Carol added quickly. My sister found me a therapist. I start next week. I don't know if it'll help, but I have to try. That's good, Tom said, and he meant it. They stood in silence for a moment. Finally, Carol nodded like she'd said what she came to say. I hope your daughter is okay. I hope she did well on her project. She got an A, Tom said. Rebuilt the whole thing. Carol smiled, but it was sad. She sounds like a good kid. You're lucky. I know. Carol walked back to her car. Tom watched her go, feeling that familiar weight he'd carried for years as a cop. The weight of knowing that life was complicated, that people were messy, that sometimes there were no clear villains or heroes, just people making choices and living with the results. The next week, Carol's house sold. Tom never saw her again, but the neighborhood changed. The rules became reasonable. The fines disappeared. People started actually talking to each other instead of hiding behind closed doors, and Tom finally got what he'd wanted all along. A normal neighborhood, a safe place for Lily, peace and quiet. Well, relatively quiet. Lily's basketball games in the driveway got pretty loud. 3 months after Carol left, Tom barely recognized the neighborhood. Not because anything looked different, but because everything felt different. The first change Kevin made as HOA president was cutting that 97-page rule book down to 12 pages. Just the basics. Keep your property reasonably maintained. Don't let your dog bark all night. Be considerate of your neighbors. Common sense stuff. If we need a 3-page section on approved mailbox colors, we're doing this wrong, Kevin had said at his first official meeting. Everyone laughed. It felt good to laugh about it. The fines disappeared almost completely. In 3 months, Kevin had issued exactly 2 violations. One was for a guy who'd abandoned a broken-down car on his lawn for 6 weeks. The other was for someone running an unlicensed auto repair business out of their garage at all hours. Real problems. Not made-up nonsense about grass height. But the biggest change wasn't the rules. It was the people. Mrs. Patterson started a neighborhood garden club. 8 people joined the first week. By the end of the month, there were 23 members, and they'd transformed the small common area at the neighborhood entrance into an actual garden with flowers and vegetables. The tomatoes Mrs. Patterson grew there were the best Tom had ever tasted. The couple across the street, Danny and his wife Ruth, organized a neighborhood barbecue. Not an official HOA event, just neighbors getting together. Tom brought burgers. Kevin brought his grill. Someone else brought a sound system. Kids ran around playing tag while adults actually talked to each other like human beings. Tom met people he'd never spoken to before. The retired teacher 3 streets over who'd been too scared to leave his house much, because Carol had given him 14 violations in 1 month. The single mom 2 doors down who'd been saving up to move because of the constant harassment. The young couple who'd almost called off buying their house when they learned Carol was the HOA president. Everyone had a story. Everyone had been affected, and now everyone was relieved. Lily's basketball hoop became the unofficial hangout spot. By October, there were usually 5 or 6 kids playing there after school. Tom would come home from work to find teenagers he'd never met shooting hoops in his driveway. At first, it annoyed him. Then he realized he kind of liked it. Your house is the fun house now, Kevin joked one afternoon, watching the kids play. Yeah, well, at least they're not inside on their phones, Tom said. One Saturday, Tom was washing his car when a truck pulled up. A young couple got out, looking around the neighborhood with that expression people get when they're house hunting. The cautiously optimistic look that says they want to love a place but are afraid to hope too much. Excuse me, the woman called over. Do you live here? 3 months now, Tom said, turning off the hose. How is it? The neighborhood, I mean. We're thinking about buying a house 2 streets over. The realtor says it's a great community, but... She trailed off like she was afraid to say more. Tom knew what she was asking. Everyone in the area had heard about Oakwood Estates and its crazy HOA president. The story had made the rounds on local social media. Some versions were accurate. Others were exaggerated to the point of absurdity. It's good, Tom said honestly. Really good, actually. We had some issues early on, but those got resolved. New management, sensible rules, nice people. I'd recommend it. The couple looked relieved. We heard there was some drama with the HOA president. There was. She's gone now. New president is much better. Actually cares about the community instead of just rules. They thanked him and drove off, looking much happier than when they'd arrived. 2 weeks later, Tom saw a moving truck at that house. The couple waved when they saw him. New neighbors. Fresh start. Kevin turned out to be exactly what the neighborhood needed. He wasn't interested in power. He just wanted everyone to get along and feel comfortable in their own homes. He set up an email list for actual community issues, not violations. Someone's cat went missing. A teenager needed help with yard work. A neighbor was selling furniture. Normal community stuff. The email list became more active than anyone expected. People helped each other. When Mrs. Patterson fell and broke her hip, 6 neighbors showed up to help with her yard and grocery shopping. When Danny's car broke down, 3 people offered rides to work until it was fixed. When Lily needed help with a calculus problem, a retired math teacher from 4 houses down came over to tutor her. This was what a neighborhood was supposed to be, Tom realized. Not a collection of houses following arbitrary rules, but actual people caring about each other. In November, Kevin proposed something at the monthly meeting. I think we should have a holiday party. For everyone. No rules, no formality, just neighbors celebrating together. The idea passed unanimously. The party was scheduled for mid-December at the community center. Tom volunteered to help set up, along with about 15 other people. They decorated, arranged tables, set up a sound system. Lily and some of the other teenagers took charge of the music playlist, which Tom pretended to have input on, but actually had zero control over. The night of the party, over 100 people showed up. Families, couples, singles, elderly folks, teenagers. The community center was packed. There was food everywhere, brought by dozens of different households. Someone had set up a gift exchange. Kids ran around, hopped up on cookies and candy. Tom stood in a corner watching it all and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Contentment. This was what he'd wanted when he moved here. Not perfection. Not rigid control. Just normal life with normal people being decent to each other. Pretty good turnout, Kevin said, appearing next to him with a plate of cookies. Yeah, Tom agreed. Really good. You know, none of this would have happened if you hadn't stood up to Carol. Everyone was too scared. But you showed us it was possible to push back. Tom shook his head. I just wanted my daughter's school project to survive. You're the one who actually changed things. We all change things, Kevin said. That's how it works. Across the room, Lily was laughing with a group of teenagers. She'd made friends quickly at her new school, and some of them were here tonight. She looked happy. Really happy. That was all Tom had ever wanted. Mrs. Patterson came over, moving slowly but steadily after recovering from her broken hip. Tom, dear, I wanted to thank you again, for everything. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. You gave us our neighborhood back. You gave us our lives back. She patted his arm. Carol called me last week, actually, from wherever she moved to. She apologized. Really apologized. Said her therapist suggested she make amends with people she'd hurt. How'd that go? Tom asked. I forgave her. Mrs. Patterson said simply. Not because what she did was okay, but because holding on to anger was exhausting, and because she seemed genuinely sorry. Tom nodded. He understood that. Forgiveness wasn't about excusing bad behavior. It was about freeing yourself from carrying around the weight of someone else's mistakes. Later that night, after the party wound down and people started heading home, Tom helped clean up. Lily was with her friends, so he had time. They stacked chairs, swept floors, packed up leftover food to donate to the local shelter. Kevin found a forgotten decoration behind a curtain, a handmade sign that said, "Community is family." Should we save this for next year? Kevin asked. Definitely, Tom said. Walking home that night, Tom took the long way, wandering through the neighborhood streets. Christmas lights were going up on houses. The decorations were all different styles, colors, themes, no matching color scheme. No approved decoration list. Just people expressing themselves however they wanted. It was messy. It was chaotic. It was perfect. He thought about Carol sometimes, wondered if she was doing better, hoped her therapy was helping. He didn't hate her. He never had. He'd just been tired of being pushed around, Tired of watching good people suffer because one person had too much power and too little oversight. When Tom got home, Lily was already there, sitting on the porch steps, even though it was cold. "Hey kiddo, good party?" "Really good." "Dad?" "Yeah? I'm glad we moved here." Tom sat down next to her. "Me too. I know it was rough at first with that crazy lady and everything, but it's good now. I like it here." "I like it here too." They sat, in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the neighborhood settle in for the night. Lights in windows, families together, a dog barking somewhere in the distance. Normal sounds, normal life. This was what Tom had spent 25 years protecting. Not big dramatic rescues, not high-profile cases, just regular people being able to live their lives in peace. The small, quiet victories that nobody made movies about, but that mattered just as much. Maybe more. "Come on," Tom said, standing up and offering Lily his hand. "It's cold. Let's go inside." Inside, where they belonged. In their home. In their neighborhood. In their community.